You know, I was stoked when Banjo-Tooie was announced for Switch, and it still is pretty cool. I mean, since Rare, the developers of Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie, are now owned by Microsoft, Kazooie for Switch seemed like it would only be a one-time thing, but here we are. Anyways, we have a lot to talk about, so let's not waste any time and jump into it. Just like last time, let's start with the story. The game takes place 2 years after Kazooie, just like in real life, and Grunty is still under that rock. Luckily, a couple of Grunty's sisters come to help her. After they remove the rock, though, Grunty is nothing but a skeleton. Luckily, Grunty's sisters, Mingella and Blobelda, have a huge ray gun called Bob that can suck the life out of things and make Grunty flesh again. She wants to blast it at all of the Isle of Hags, which I'll explain later, but Bob needs to charge up first, and so our adventure begins. Also, Grunty kills Bottles. Trust me, that'll be important later. Now let's talk about the controls. When you first get hold of Banjo, you'll learn that you have all the moves that you learned in Banjo-Kazooie, although you can go up to Bottles' molehills to relearn all the moves if you need a quick refresher or if you haven't played Banjo-Kazooie yet. As I mentioned before, you have all the moves from Banjo-Kazooie, but some moves have been improved upon. An example of this is the Claw Swipe, which was probably the worst attack in Banjo-Kazooie. This attack was made slightly better in Tooie, though. The roll was also made better, even though it was already pretty good, and swimming has been heavily improved upon. But Banjo-Tooie also has a lot of other gameplay styles. But first, we have to talk about the guy that teaches you them all, Jam Jars. Jam Jars is Bottles' brother, and he takes Bottles' place as the one who teaches you the moves. He also claims he knows all the advanced moves. So, you mean to tell me that grabbing onto a ledge is advanced, but being temporarily invincible is basic? Whatever you say, pal. Besides that, there's not much to talk about this guy. Now let's talk about the alternate gameplay styles. First up, we got first-person shooting. Why did they add this in the game? In this playstyle, you use Kazooie as a literal gun. It's contained to only a few sections, but there are just only about 4 of them, and it's a really big change of pace, and I'm not saying that in a good way. The only reason I have for why Rare would do this is to remind us that, oh hey, we made GoldenEye in Perfect Dark. I don't care, just let me play my platformer. Anyways, I'm just not a big fan of these sections. An alternate gameplay style I do like, though, are Solo Banjo and Solo Kazooie. And you can basically use them anywhere as long as there's a split-up pad. So, around the many levels are split-up pads, and they allow Kazooie to jump out of Banjo's backpack and, well, split up. Just like a divorce! Solo Banjo and Solo Kazooie play a whole lot differently from each other. Let's start off with Solo Banjo, who feels just like regular Banjo, but without Kazooie. He can't use any of the shoes, shoot eggs, use the flying or jump pads, or use gold feathers. Although, he puts that empty backpack to good use, because he can use it to attack, he can hide under it to squeeze through small spaces, he can use it as a sack, like in one of those sack races to cross over dangerous terrain, he can store stuff in his backpack to take things from one place to another, and finally, he can sleep in it like a sleeping bag to heal up. Man, he really is a heavy sleeper. Also, that double jump pack whack glitch probably isn't a glitch at this point. First off, it's insanely easy to pull off. Even a baby can pull off this glitch. It's as simple as pressing jump, then pressing attack in midair, and press jump again while the animation is playing. It's literally it. So if it's that easy to pull off, how is it not discovered while playtesting? And even if they didn't find it during the initial testing, why is it present in all future ports of the game? My theory is that they did find it during the initial testing, but kept it in because it makes him a lot more fun to play as. Then we have Solo Kazooie, who, unlike Banjo, is fast and can climb up steep areas with ease. And also, unlike Banjo, she can use all the mechanics I previously said that Solo Banjo can't use, except for gold feathers for some reason. She's also able to do some really cool, unique stuff like gliding in the air, hatching eggs. Wait a minute. What does this mean? Ding. Oh, my pizza rolls are done. Nom 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 nom. On the topic of alternate gameplay styles, let's talk about Mumbo Jumbo. Instead of him transforming you into a different being, you'll be able to play as him in exchange for a Globo, which basically replaces Mumbo tokens in this game. As Mumbo, you can use Mumbo pads to change something in the world you're in. Other than that, he's pretty much useless. You may be wondering who takes on the role of transforming you when Mumbo no longer does that. Well, say hello to Humbo Wumba, a Native American stereotype who will transform you in exchange for a Globo. This time around, there's a transformation in every world, although it does make some of them feel pretty forced. Now let's talk about the collectibles in this game. Most, if not all, the collectibles for the first game were here in Banjo-Tooie, but there are some differences with them. Let's start with the Jiggies, and they have stayed relatively the same, with them still being the main collectible and needed to unlock new worlds, but the way you unlock the worlds themselves are different. So, there's this new character named Master Jiggy Wiggy, and if you have enough Jiggies, you can try out one of his Jiggy Wiggy challenges, which are basically just those bottles puzzle mini-games from the first game, although it is a lot more fun than just pushing a few buttons. Now let's talk about the notes, and the first change about them is that there's overall less of them. Well, the total is still 100 per world, but they're split up into 16 groups of 5 and 1 group of 20. I personally think this destroys the purpose of the notes, because I felt like they pushed you to see everything a world had to offer. But with the much bigger worlds, I could see how it could be annoying to collect them all. Oh, also, you use the notes to get new moves from jam jars. Just thought I should mention that. Even the extra honeycomb pieces have been changed. Instead of just collecting 6 and just getting the extra health unit, you have to go to this bee character named Honey Bee, who will give you extra health units in exchange for extra honeycomb pieces. And each extra health unit costs more and more, making you work more for it. And it's a level of progression I really like. On the topic of collectibles, let's talk about the new egg types. We still have our normal eggs, but we also have fire eggs, which put stuff on fire, grenade eggs, which are insanely overpowered, ice eggs, which freeze stuff, and clockwork kazooie eggs, which spawns a little robo-kazooie that you can move and explode on demand. I really like the addition of these new egg types, since it spices up the gameplay, although I do wish there were more puzzle sections where you can use the different abilities of the many different eggs. Hey guys, going forward with this video, I'll be using these new mics I got for Christmas. This video took a lot of time to make, but anyways, this is how the video is going to sound from here on out, so yeah. One very interesting thing about Banjo-Tooie is stop and swap. Now, I'm not going to go into it in full detail, but basically it was supposed to be a way to connect Banjo-Kazooie to Banjo-Tooie, but was eventually scrapped due to newer versions of the N64. Now, the developers did add in little N64 cartridges that have little eggs and an ice key if you break them, and each one of those gives you a special thing. So let's go through all of those real quick. Now, the first Easter egg gives you a new move. It's useless. The second reward is Jinjo as a character in the multiplayer. And if you're like me and doesn't have anyone who wants to play the multiplayer with you, this is also useless. The final egg gives you a cheat code that gives you homing eggs, and they barely work, so it's useless. Now the ice key, on the other hand... Whoa. What? It's a dragon. Okay, now I was going to talk about every single world, but then I realized not to do that because that would make this video way longer than it has any right to be. So we're just going to skip right to the final boss, and spoiler warnings for that. Anyway, let's get into it in 3, 2, 1. Now, I think I personally prefer the final boss in Banjo-Kazooie than in Banjo-Tooie. I feel like Banjo-Kazooie used every single thing you learned along your adventure in the final boss. But in Banjo-Tooie, it's basically just like a first-person shooter the entire time. And you know how I feel about the first-person shooters. Hi guys, so this is about the end of the video, and I just want to say a few extra things before I go. First off, I think I prefer Banjo-Tooie over Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie is a great game, but I just feel like Banjo-Tooie just does everything Banjo-Kazooie does better. And I know I didn't get through everything, like the Jinjo system, the cheat code system, and other stuff, but personally, I think it's just like all an improvement, really. And yeah, I'd really recommend you play this game. It's on Switch, N64, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. But yeah, it's a very great game. I really recommend it, and that's pretty much the end of the video. I spent a lot of time making this video, so I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. And I will see you in the next one.